Welcome to this episode of Katy on the Farm. We're here at the Fish Dock Restaurant near Sapelo Island, Georgia, to talk to Captain Charlie Phillips of Sapelo Sea Farms and Phillips Seafood. Welcome back. I'm here at the Fish Dock Restaurant to talk to Captain Charlie Phillips. Hey Charlie, there you are now.
Hi there. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having us out today.
Well, I'm glad you made it and found us.
Yeah, I did. We all did. Yes, we appreciate it.
And we'll go get something to eat pretty quick, and then we'll go see how to grow clams.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Thanks, Charlie. We're here in the Fish Dock Restaurant with this beautiful view and Captain Charlie Phillips. Charlie, thank you so much for having us today.
Well, I am tickled that y'all have come, and you picked a good day to come. The weather's beautiful.
I concur. I concur. So this is a really neat space. It's interesting architecturally. It's obviously right on the water. It's large. You could host a lot of people here. There's local art on the walls and local food on the menu. How did you come to be the proprietor here?
Well, I own the fish dock, the docks next door, so we pack clams, grow clams. We also pack snapper grouper boats. And part of my dockage is in front of this. My dad built this in the early 80s. And he built it, and people wanted more window seats, so he added on, and then he went up, and then he went out, and it stayed under construction for probably 10 years. Wow. And finally, about 4 years ago, when he was 87 years old, he said, "I think I need to retire." I thought, well, if you insist. I'm a fishmonger. I'm not a restaurant person, but I've got access to all the fresh seafood. We've got a really great place to have it, and I'll go ahead and buy it. I figured I'd be a better neighbor to me than somebody else might be.
Less risk that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you took it on from your dad who built it. It's been here a while. It's an established part of the community at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know you said the menu has morphed and evolved as has been required.
Yes, he used to have a seafood buffet with snow crab and all the shrimp you could eat, and I decided I wanted to feed people stuff that I liked, local, have a menu where you could afford to come, every week if you wanted to, and so I'm just old and crusty, and I like to give people stuff that I like.
Oh, it looks fantastic. The menu looks fantastic. I'm so excited to eat. Yeah. I've been looking forward to this for a while. So where did you get the art that's hanging in here?
The local art association came, and they were looking for wall space wherever they could find it, so their artists could hang, their art. And so we said, sure, we got lots of wall space. And so they've been bringing art, and they kind of rotate it around. And it seems to be working really well, and they've got some people that can do some really good and interesting art.
Yeah.
So it's just part of what we do.
I like that you've provided a venue for that, and then it kind of adds to that local aesthetic, right?
Well, another thing that I try really hard to do is teach people what you can do with your environment. Mm-hmm. The placemats have all of the shellfish leases on them with the water testing stations. So I want people to understand what you can do with your environment. If you take care of your water quality, then your environment can take care of you, and you can have sustainable industries like aquaculture and fishing and shrimping, and have safe water for people to go do recreational things in, swimming and fishing and stuff like that. So to me, it's all about taking care of your environment so your environment can take care of you. That
makes sense. A systemic approach to everything, a big picture approach. And this might be the neatest placemat I've ever seen. I mean, really, that is a great way to proselytize that message, is to say, listen, you're here, and here's what matters, and here's the information, right? I like this. I'm gonna take one of these home with me, Charlie. Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me.
So why buy local? Why make the effort to get up on a Saturday morning and go find producers in your area? It circulates a higher percentage of your money back through your community. It supports local jobs, local growers and farmers. It increases the accountability in the food supply chain. When you know who's producing your food and you can walk onto their farm, then you know exactly how it was raised or how it was made. Buying local makes you local.
Backroads Sports Television Network, the location to find rural high school sports. Go to our website today at backroadsports.tv.
All right, so you have lots of endeavors. I see on your shirt you've got Sapelo Sea Farms, Phillips Seafood, and you've talked to me about the different kinds of boats you have, all the different facets of this.
Well, I have snapper boats, but we have federal permits to catch snapper grouper. We have federal permits to catch king mackerel, Spanish mackerel. We have federal permits to catch shark. I mean, we have permits to pot black sea bass. We just do a lot of stuff, and we call it portfolio fishing.
Okay.
Because you really need to do a lot of stuff, because some things have low quotas, and so you may not be able to fish for that particular species all year, and you may need to switch over, or the fish have moved through, or any number of things. So like I say, I've got shark permits. You're not going to see any sharks here in the wintertime. They move south. But in the spring and summer, there's some sharks around, and if you can't go offshore or don't want to go offshore, you could day fish and catch some sharks. Mm-hmm. They're a really good product. They're inexpensive, and we've got federal quotas set by the scientists and the assessment teams on every species.
Okay.
Sharks, vermilion snapper, every grouper species. And I sat on the South Atlantic Fishery Management Council that does all the federal regulations. Mm-hmm. I turned out, August was a year ago. So I spent 9 years sitting at the table doing federal regulations, listening to stakeholders, listening to scientists, listening to the recreational interest, the NGO interest, and trying to come up with the best regulations that fit the most people and you still take care of our fish stocks sustainably. And we also include, habitat. We have protected areas for habitat, corals, and we have rules for protecting things like sea turtles. 2 weeks ago, I was in the panhandle of Florida going to sea turtle safe handling class, and I have to have that because I have a long line directed shark permit. So you have to do a lot of stuff, and it's just what we do. We have different tools on the boat that are mandated. If you catch a turtle, this is how you dehook it. And so there is a lot to what we do, and there's a lot of regulations, and fishermen have to be pretty talented in a lot of ways. You need to be able to know how to navigate. Our guys generally work 60, 70, 80 miles offshore. Right now I've got a boat that's probably 120 miles offshore. He's on the other side of the Gulf Stream. He's probably fishing in 2,000 to 2,500 feet of water for wreck fish.
Wow.
And I communicate with him by satellite.
Wow, that's fascinating. So as you sat on this committee to figure out the regulations and everything, I'm impressed by the broad spectrum of voices taken into consideration to develop these regulations. It's really kind of comforting to somebody who's out, looking for a place to purchase seafood and to understand if they're making an ethical purchase. It's really nice to know that if you're following the rules, that those rules have been set with such a comprehensive list of considerations.
It's very transparent. There's a lot of public comment involved. A lot of stakeholders go to the table and bring their concerns. And so it's a long process. And obviously we're always wanting more money to do more fishery assessments and collect more data. We never have enough data ever. So we're always, struggling with that. But all of the fish stocks, we have less overfished and overfishing going on with fish stocks than we have ever had. Our stocks across the board are getting better and better shape all the time.
That's good to hear. So how long have you been fishing in this general region?
I started shrimp fishing back in 1975. I was going to college. I was running a shrimp boat 5 days a week. I was going to class at night 2 days a week. And the professor told me, we're going to have finals on June 1st. And I said, no, I can't be here June 1st. I run a shrimp boat. The beach is open. It could be a really, really good day for catching shrimp because the beach is open. I can be here before. I can be here after. Oh no, this is your test. You have to be here June 1st. So we had a discussion in the hall for about 10 minutes. And I finally said, I have the answer. I don't have to be here June 1st because I quit. So
have to shrimp.
I became a full-time shrimper after that.
I see. Well, that was some time ago. What changes have you seen? Like, have you noticed, improvements or massive changes in the populations that you're able to fish out here? Everything changes. Back in the early days, we had very high limits on a lot of fish. Now, most of the limits are much lower. The boats have changed, the number of fishermen have changed, how they fish have changed. Look, there was a fisherman right there. Oh, yeah.
Well, most people know it as a porpoise, but we call them fishermen just...
I was wondering. I thought that, there's a porpoise right there outside the window. That seems like a good segue into let's have some mussels, right?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me. These
Clams.
clams. I'm sorry.
Clams.
These smell so good.
These are mercenaria,
Okay.
are called hard clams.
Okay. I've heard of hard clams.
And when I bought it, if you look at the rings, I probably bought it. It was on a 4mm sieve, so it was about that small.
Okay.
It's about the size of a BB or a little
Okay.
bit bigger. And then right here, you'll see another growth ring. So after I had it in a bag for about 6 months, 5 or 6 months, it's this big. I pull it out of the bag, put it in a different bag, and then it grows on out to here in another 18 months. So these clams are basically 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
It takes a long time.
It does. I wouldn't have anticipated that they were that old at this size.
But we never stop planting, and we never stop harvesting. We harvest even in the summertime,
yeah.
which you cannot do for oysters. We don't harvest oysters in the summertime
Okay.
right now.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of different kind of sayings about how you know when it's okay to eat an oyster. Is there any truth to it? Or is it just...
Well, you can eat oysters in the summertime. They just have to be handled differently. A lot of the reason people say in Georgia, South Carolina didn't eat oysters in the summertime is because, because they had spawned out in the spring, so they were just poor quality.
Okay.
They weren't fat.
Okay.
When the water starts getting colder, then they get fat, and there's just more oyster, and it's just a better product.
I gotcha.
So,
Okay.
and in the summertime, you have to really be careful on how you handle stuff, because it's like anything else. The warmer the water temperature is, or the warmer it is when you're handling it, the more you have to do to make sure it's still a safe product.
Right.
But there is an oyster called a triploid that doesn't spawn. And it's got 3 chromosomes instead of 2. I won't get into the technical part of it, but it's just an oyster that does not spawn, so it's fat all of the time.
Okay.
So you can harvest those, and there's a lot of them on the market from different states. Georgia's just trying to learn how to, get into the oyster industry. I think Georgia and Texas are the last 2 states on the Gulf Coast, and East Coast that don't have oyster aquaculture.
Okay.
We're last.
Okay. Well, maybe when we jump in, we'll have learned from everyone else at this point. That's interesting. So can I get the clams and mussels from you most of the year, and I don't have to be concerned because you're not harvesting them at a time when it's inopportune, right?
Well, clams are just different they're a little bit different from oysters. People eat clams all year. They're down in the mud.
Okay.
They're not exposed like oysters are.
Okay.
So they don't get quite the temperature extremes that the oysters would get. And most people are going to cook clams, and there's just, you just don't have the issues with clams that you might have, that you hear about with oysters.
Right.
Every now and then you'll hear about somebody getting sick off of oysters. It's generally somebody that has a compromised immune system or something. That their doctors probably has already told them don't eat shellfish unless they're well cooked. But very seldom do you hear about anybody getting ill from a clam. So and I love growing clams. It's just all they do is eat algae and clean the water. There is nothing else. I get goose pimples. It's just such a cool thing to do.
That really is.
Yeah.
That really is that they're out here cleaning the water. So it's doing an environmental service to raise them as well.
Yep.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. This is gorgeous. I have blackened shrimp tacos here, and it's really beautiful.
Vinegar?
Yep.
Can I get you anything else as well?
I'm fine, thank you. This is wonderful. Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me.
So why buy local? Why make the effort to get up on a Saturday morning and go find producers in your area? It circulates a higher percentage of your money back through your community. It supports local jobs, local growers and farmers. It increases the accountability in the food supply chain. When you know who's producing your food and you can walk onto their farm, then you know exactly how it was raised or how it was made. Buying local makes you local.
Backroad Sports Television Network, the location to find rural high school sports. Go to our website today at backroadsports.tv.
So these are amazing. Thank you very much. Lunch has been wonderful. And I see there are more people getting off boats right outside the restaurant and coming in to have lunch.
Yep.
That's really neat.
I really enjoy watching people come in, tie up, get off the water, and come in and have lunch. Actually, if they bring in some fish and they clean them, we'll even cook them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? that's really neat. I want to do that now. This seems like it would just be a lovely day to be out boating and come in for lunch.
It is really a pretty day. That it is.
So a lot of local stuff on the menu. You've mentioned different kinds of boats you have that I'm not even familiar with, and this wide distance and how far out everyone has fished. Your men are fishing. So what are you bringing in? How are you bringing it in?
We're bringing in snapper grouper species. We have permits to catch shark sometimes. We bring in, we harvest our clams from Sapelo, bring those in the season. We'll bring in, in the colder months when the oysters are open, we'll bring in wild oysters and we'll do oyster buckets and stuff. For people that won't have shell oysters, we generally have to go like to Virginia for those. But we bring in all kind of stuff, and there's all kind of permits that are needed for whatever fish you're bringing in or species. Sharks, for instance, we have directed shark permits, and shark's really good fish if you handle it right. Of course, you have to handle all of your fish right, some more so than others. And right now there's some bills in Congress about you can bring the sharks in, but you can't sell the fins. Fins are, depending on the size of the shark, may be 50% of the value. And they believe that if they don't let American fishermen sell fins, that it may help an illegal practice that generally goes on, over in Indonesia or somewhere else. But all of our fishermen have to unload. If you have 1,000 pounds of meat, you can't have but X amount of fins. There's a percentage. So we know that we don't have anybody that's really doing illegal stuff in fins. And it doesn't make sense for us to throw away, what might be 50% of the value of your product for nothing. It'd be kind of like somebody growing a hog, but they're told you can sell the hog, but we're going to throw the bacon away because we think whatever, and you can't get paid for it.
Hi, I'm Katy Rogers. I hope you'll be right back after this message to join me.
Yeah.
What kind of shark do we eat?
Generally, we'll eat things like blacktip. There's a sandbar experimental fishery. They were listed as being overfished, so they have a small fishery for sandbar sharks. You have to have an observer on the boat. Everything is well documented. And the fishermen that do get selected for that for that experimental fishery, they tell me there's a lot of sandbar sharks out there. There's a lot of sharks, period. They do a lot of damage to people like shrimpers. They just chew up their shrimp nets at certain times of the year to the point where they lose so much gear and they lose so much shrimp from sharks biting holes in their bags and the shrimp getting out. And we lose a lot of money because of there's so many sharks out in our waters. And there's a lot of different kinds of sharks. I saw that small fin mako, I believe that's what it was, is going to have some more protections on it now. And so you can't just group them all into one big ball. You've got small groupings of small coastal, large coastal, things like that.
We've had a great meal here at the fish dock with Captain Charlie Phillips of Sapelo Sea Farms and Phillips Seafood. And I am so excited. There's so much to see and do here. You guys come back and join us next week, and we're going to go out there.